Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
We're here with Mr. Bruce Silverglade of the Gleason Boxing Gym here in Dumbo. We're continuing our series, our effort of bringing local businesses in front of the local audience so people get to know who they are, the real people behind our businesses here. Mr. Bruce is the third generation owner of the Gleason Gym. And you may not know this, the gym is actually the oldest boxing gym here in the United States. It started up in the Bronx back in 1930s, right?
1937.
Oh, 37, yeah, 1937. And you know, up in the Bronx back then, it was quite a spot. You know, you have a nose, you can find where it was.
Yes.
So Bruce, when you became the owner, you brought it over to Dumbo, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, and in the 80s.
1985.
Yeah, I'm sure Dumbo in 1985 was not the same.
It was 100% different. Back then, there was no tourists. There was no one living here except some squatters in the buildings. Most of these high-rises that are here today were non-existent back then. There were no sidewalks. The streets were in very, very difficult shape. And we were filled only with, the neighborhood was filled with crack users. This was back in 1980s in New York when there was a crack epidemic going on. So it was a very scary location. However, well, we decided to come here because we lost our lease in Manhattan. We were in a high-rise building for 10 years on 30th and 8th in Manhattan. And when we lost our lease, the new owner didn't want to renew it. So we were looking around, and there was also a recession going on, and we couldn't afford anything in New York City. So we were looking in the boroughs, and then David Walentis from Two Trees contacted us and brought us over and had this interview with him up in his office, and he showed us a beautiful layout of what Dumbo was going to be, which meant absolutely nothing to me because I was a fight gym and I didn't care about what it was going to look like. But the rent was perfect. He gave it to us dirt cheap, so we moved over here. And
was he a fan of it? He a fan of the boxing sports as well?
Yeah, he knew about Gleason's Gym, and he was a fan of boxing. But he wanted to bring people into there. We're now the oldest business here. When we first moved over, there were only two other businesses, and they've both since gone out of business. So I'm probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, business here. And that's what he wanted. He was looking for businesses, and David's philosophy was he wanted mom and pop places. He didn't want big chains in here. So Gleason's was a good fit.
Yeah. And fast forward, so last year was the pandemic. Was it very difficult, even for an old business, established business like you?
It was very difficult. You know, many businesses are no longer existing. Many people have passed away. It was a very, very difficult time for the whole world, and Gleason's was part of the world and part of New York City. So it was difficult for us also. But what you have to realize is that Gleason's has a big reputation, so many people know Gleason's, but the reality is I'm a small business in New York City, and I make my income by customers coming in and paying me a gym dues. So during the pandemic, it was non-existent. We were actually closed for 6 months, and when we were able, and when we were able to reopen, there were quite a few restrictions and protocols that we had to follow, which were quite expensive and very prohibitive for people training. So yes, it was a difficult time, and I want to thank Chase Manhattan Bank for loaning so much money to me that I was able to survive and continue. But now that the gym is back on its feet and we're moving forward, I'm going to be able to pay this huge loan off.
Is the traffic pretty much the same as the pre-pandemic level?
No. I still haven't reached the numbers that I was at prior to the pandemic. The one major source of income hasn't come back yet, and that's tourism. I work with probably 25 or 26 different tour agencies in the city, and I'm one of the locations that they offer to people that come in on trips. And so that's still non-existent. Tourism is coming back to a degree. Europe is still barred. unfortunately, but the American tourists are coming back. So we're getting a lot of domestic tourists, and people are starting to come in. But I don't get the agencies that really book big things. But that'll come back shortly, and once that's back, then yes, I'll be back to normal.
Yeah. Would you say that was some of the toughest moment out of your 37 years of operating this business, the pandemic, 6 months?
I would say 100% it was the number one biggest problem that I've had. The gym has been very successful for years. We've had many world champions here. We've done many movies up here, many television shows. Politicians are here all the time. I have weddings. Yes, our next mayor. It's a very busy gym, very active gym. But when the key is turned off and you can't let anybody in your front door, it's a difficult time.
Yeah. So away from the pandemic, has there been any frustrating, some of the pretty dark moments you had to overcome?
No. I have probably one of the best jobs in the world. Wow, I love what I do.
Very no one's ever said that.
Oh, I love what I do. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I open the gym up. I get here between 4:30 and 4:45 in the morning every morning. Not that I have to. I have some great women and employees that work for me. But I choose to come in because it's fun every day. You never know who's going to come in, who's going to be on the other end of the line saying they want to come in and use the places. As I was saying, I've had weddings and bar mitzvahs and corporate events. I've had people running for the presidency of the United States call me on the phone and say, can they use Gleason's as a fundraiser location? It's great. I mean, we have actors and actresses. Obviously, we have quite a few good boxing champions, but that's expected. I'm a boxing gym. But we have all walks of life in here all the time. And when I first purchased the gym back in 1982, women were not permitted in the amateur program. They weren't allowed to fight at all. There were some professional fighters, but they were very, very few and far between. And most of the professional women did train out of Gleason's gym on and off when they were allowed. But because of all the filming and other things that we do other than boxing, women were in the gym all the time, and they would always say, hey, we want to train here. And I had a partner back then who was then older than me. He was a traditionalist that didn't want women fighting. Okay, women only belonged in the kitchen and having babies. Okay, and I was of a younger generation, and again back in the 80s, huge movements were on, and women were getting into everything. They were becoming firemen and policemen and doing anything they wanted, like they should. And so I was saying, let's let the women train. Then, as I mentioned earlier, there was a recession back in the 80s, and we were suffering from the recession. So I went to my partner. I said, Ira, half the population is women. Why are we cutting off half of the people? Let them come in and pay us money. When I go to the bank in the morning, they don't say, did this money come from women or did this come from men? It's money. Okay, so we tried an experiment. We were in Manhattan, and we were in a 7,500 square foot gym, and there was only one changing area and only one bathroom facility. So what I did was close the gym 3 nights a week early, kicked all the men out, and we let the women come in. And picture, one of the very, very first group of women is up there on the wall. We can take a picture. Okay.
We'll take a
And it became hugely successful right away. The women just loved it. This was 83, 1983, 1984. Okay, so the women were coming in. It was highly successful, and then in 1985 we relocated to Dumbo, and we were on 77 Front Street, just one block from where we are right now. And I had 20,000 square feet space, so we built facilities for the women. They had their own training area, their own bathroom facilities and changing area, and women from all over were coming into Gleason's, and no other gym wanted women. So everybody was coming into Gleason's. Then one of my female athletes, a woman by the name of Dee Hamaguchi, wanted to box in the New York City Golden Gloves, which is a very large amateur tournament. They wouldn't let her. So she sued, and we were behind a lawsuit with her. She won the lawsuit, and then women were permitted to box. And once the Daily News, who sponsored the tournament, was forced to allow women, they got behind it. So their publicity, and Gleason's was the only place where women were training. So we were, we had a good head start there, and we won all the Golden Gloves fights because of the women. And so it is now become extremely popular. I have 5 female world champions that currently train here, and prior to the pandemic, 400 members were female. I had 1,200 members, and 1/3 were female. So it's become very, very successful, and the women, I have to tell you, have changed dramatically from 1985 to today, for the better. When they first started, obviously they were brand new to the sport. So although they had the desire, they didn't have they had the ability, but they didn't have the training and the history of boxing. Today, which is many years later, I guess almost close to 40 years later, the women are terrific athletes. They're very, very good fighters. Prior to you coming in here, I was watching one of the Americans at the Olympics, female fighters who just won today. And the women are terrific athletes, very, very good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I'm going to send my girl here.
Good, good. What about you? You should pick it up again.
Pick it up again too. Yeah, you must have coaches here?
I have 92 trainers. And all the trainers train men, women, children, whoever has money to pay, they'll train.
Yeah, so it works as you come here and you become a member,
Mm-hmm.
and then, so it's not class-based, so you have to become a member and then you can start training with the trainers.
Correct. Everybody is a member. Obviously, most of my people are local, so they're monthly members. But I have visitors from around the world that come in, many of them specifically to train here at Gleason's. So some people are here just for a day, some people are here for a week or a month, something like that.